Our tale commences within the shadowy fortress of the reigning demon lord of the present age. The citadel's facade and ambience were austere and merciless, mirroring the disposition of its ruler. This evening diverges significantly from the ordinary. The colossal portals of the demon lord's chambers had been breached with brute force. A malevolent grin stretched across the demon lord's lips, for only one individual possessed the capability to penetrate this deeply into her dominion, the fabled hero. Indeed, the valiant champion had finally attained the ultimate stage of any heroic quest, which was infiltrating the demon lord's throne room and presumably engaging in a mortal duel. This signified that this era's hero was not merely powerful, but also audacious, bold enough to confront the sovereign of the formidable demonic kind. The demon lord commended the hero's resilience in persevering and venturing this far. It was a courageous, yet foolish act, and potentially his ultimate act. But prior to the exchange of blows, the spilling of blood, the gnashing of teeth in this supposed final confrontation, the clang of a blade striking the frigid, unyielding floor echoes. This was entirely unexpected by the demon lord. She had anticipated a ferocious struggle to triumph over humanity's champion. After all, she was met with a crimson-haired youth, lifeless eyes, weeping and laughing maniacally. He appeared disheveled and weary, rather than the embodiment of a courageous hero confronting the malevolent sovereign. This individual stumbled, slurring pleas for a swift end. In a peculiar turn of events, no battle transpired that evening. Instead, the hero was drawn onto the demon lord's lap as she caressed his head, while enjoying a cigarette on the other side. She declared that life inherently encompasses both fortune and misfortune. Succumbing to despair after a setback or two is never the path to choose. She mused to herself. Humanity can be so remarkably callous, and this young man serves as a testament to that cruelty. They compelled a mere 17-year-old, a strikingly attractive youth, to confront an overwhelmingly powerful entity, a formidable demon lord, such as herself. This unfortunate lad was plucked from another dimension and coerced into jeopardizing his life to safeguard a foolish monarch, his abused subjects in the hopelessly corrupt realm. And thus, the tale of a despondent hero and the formidable demon queen commenced. The trajectory of this narrative remains uncertain, but it promises to be captivating. Without any discernible motive, the demon queen resolved to care for the handsome young hero. For the present, she has gone so far as to attend to his needs, providing him with a luxurious bed for slumber, while she occupies herself nearby, simply relaxing and indulging in a chain of cigarettes. Yet, the incongruity wasn't overlooked by her. She reigned as the supreme ruler of darkness in this domain. Aiding the hero, whose ultimate mission was her demise, was quite peculiar, to put it mildly. After a period, the youth gradually opened his weary, bloodshot eyes. His initial inquiry concerned his location. A recognizable voice chimed in nearby. He believed his desire for death had been granted, and he was simply unwinding in the afterlife. Currently, this notion twisted his lips into a bizarre grin, coupled with his vacant gaze. It startled the demon lord. The young man possessed an unsettling smile. Upon realizing he wasn't solitary, he too recoiled in surprise. He promptly questioned if the demon lord had also perished and joined him in the celestial realm. She swiftly refuted that notion. However, the dejected protagonist registered his various wounds. He deduced that he was still among the living. His next query was his precise location. She nonchalantly clarified that they were within the demon lord's fortress. Due to the hero's copious weeping, his eyes had become as crimson as his hair. He eventually succumbed to slumber in her lap. At that juncture, the demon queen herself transported him to this chamber for repose. Having received a summary of events, his subsequent inquiry was, when did she intend to execute him? She languidly responded that no execution was imminent. She simply wouldn't eliminate the hero. Not at present, at least. Rather than experiencing relief at his reprieve, he appeared even more despondent and disheartened. Instead, the demon lord's fortress appeared somber and desolate. The chamber's sole illumination emanated from the lunar glow through the open windows and the ember of the demon queen's cigarette. As she traversed her realm, she couldn't resist contemplating what exactly was amiss with this particular hero. Moreover, he'd lingered for a considerable duration, and she remained ignorant of his name. Contemplating him incessantly caused her to flush ever so slightly. Perhaps he was peculiar, or maybe she misconstrued everything, and she was the unconventional one in this circumstance. She was performing tasks throughout the citadel when a radiant luminescence arrested her progress. It originated from the facade of the immense balcony gracing one side of the fortress. There stood the youth she had delivered. He remained motionless, resembling a sculpture, beneath the celestial brilliance of the nocturnal stars. This gave the demon queen pause. She approached him and inquired if he was admiring the celestial display. The young man seemed utterly oblivious to her presence, much less to her offhand inquiry. He offered a detached, almost indifferent greeting. Then, the youth confessed that gazing at the stars evoked memories of a dear companion. To this personal revelation, the demon queen was momentarily speechless. Words seemed to escape her. Yet the splendor of the night sky, mirrored in her captivating eyes and radiant face, spoke volumes. The demon queen pondered, sensing an opportune moment to inquire about the hero's name. The fleeting spark in his eyes vanished once more. Upon hearing the question, his own name seemed a distant memory. Following that inquiry, he'd practically forgotten his given name. He was universally known simply as Hero. Occasionally, he was addressed as Hey or Kill the Monster, or worse, Little Shit, Untalented Dumbass Monster, and a litany of other insults. The demon queen gently interrupted his reverie and specified her desire to know his given name, the one bestowed by his parents. That certainly clarifies the situation. The hero's name is Atami. His gaze remained fixed on the celestial canvas above. Her eyes remained locked on the stars, unwavering in their attention. The demon queen sought to extend a proposition to Atami. Hearing her words delivered in such a seductive tone caused the despondent hero to flush. Tears began to well up in his eyes once more. For reasons unknown, she observed this and was again perplexed. This individual appears to have a penchant for weeping. Each encounter seems to elicit tears. Itami attempted with all his might to wipe away the tears, but they continued to stream down his face. In this uncaring reality, his true name had been uttered a mere 2 times. He was simply grateful to hear it once again after such a prolonged period. She hadn't considered it to be a matter of great significance. The thought hadn't occurred to her. The human realm had evidently been far more cruel to this youth than she had initially presumed. The demon queen wished to elaborate further. As she was on the verge of addressing him as Hero, she deliberately chose to interrupt herself mid-sentence. She desired to use his given name, not the appellation and title the kingdom had foisted upon him. Itami, the compassionate demon queen, retreated slightly. She turned towards Itami, a broad grin revealing her endearingly menacing fangs. Her arms extended outwards, a radiant smile gracing her flushed cheeks. Her demonic wings appeared less formidable. She proclaimed that henceforth, Itami was welcome to reside in her fortress. He would serve as her personal protector. She vowed everyone would address him by his birth name. From that moment forward, the supposedly merciless demon overlord resembled a celestial being, a divine messenger in Itami's eyes. Each time she uttered his name, his fractured spirit began to mend, piece by piece. And when she finally assured him of happiness there, the tears born of sorrow and crippling despair transformed into tears of solace and renewed faith. For the second time in his existence, Itami's wounded heart and spirit commenced their gradual recovery. The emotionally charged night concluded. Dawn broke over the demon lord's fortress. Itami and the queen traversed the corridors side by side. It's fortunate the demons within remain unaware of the hero's true visage. Thus, Itami could navigate the castle freely, disguised as a new human confederate. That last piece of intelligence proved quite unexpected. He was oblivious to the demon faction possessing human collaborators, to the extent that he could wander the castle unimpeded, without a single demon raising suspicion. She verified the existence of certain pacts, with a select group of humans. In addition to Atami, 3 other individuals exist. These individuals were once affiliated with the Demon Lord's forces. Currently, they operate as undercover agents within human territories. On a separate matter, she intended to address a matter of utmost importance with Atami. She glanced at him, and only then did she perceive the young man's disheveled appearance. He was dressed in a worn, ragged hoodie and dilapidated trousers. His entire ensemble was in a state of disarray. It was truly dreadful. The demon queen's gaze fixated on his hands. They were covered in numerous battle scars. These marked countless perilous encounters he had survived. As she continued to observe him, she felt compelled to inquire about the frequency. In the last occasion, he had even bothered to change his attire. Itami sheepishly admitted that he hadn't had an opportunity to change clothes since his arrival in this unfamiliar land. The demon queen found this utterly unbelievable. The legendary savior was summoned 2 years prior. The human monarch declared his advent, stunning the globe. At that time, that proclamation was misleading. Itami's arrival in this alien world occurred 2.5 years earlier. For the initial disorienting 6 months, he was restrained to a laboratory table. A sinister figure subjected him to agonizing and barbaric experimentation. Each and every day, following that agonizing half-year, he was released into the unknown. The ruthless king burdened him with countless missions, leaving him no respite to even change his attire. He lacked the opportunity for even a simple bath, even if he desired one, as the demon queen believed it couldn't worsen. Itami casually unveiled another traumatic revelation. During their stroll through the castle grounds, she nearly wept upon hearing of the inhumane treatment inflicted upon the hapless and bewildered youth by humanity's hands. The demon queen felt so obligated she provided him with fresh attire. Now that Itami's brought it up, the scent of mortality seems to perpetually accompany him. And it wasn't merely a figure of speech. He literally reeks. His stench could instantly incapacitate a man at close proximity. Itami desperately requires a bath, and a very prompt one at that. His odor is so potent that even the infernal sovereign couldn't tolerate it. A Valentine's Day advertisement suddenly appears. It serves as a stark reminder to all single men that even a melancholy hero has a romantic partner, while they do not. This is sure to increase the number of despondent heroes in the world. To alleviate their despair, they must embark on a quest to find their own personal demon queen. She will become the sovereign of their affections. Let's return to our narrative. Today's objective is acquiring new garments for Itami to replace his foul-smelling initial outfit. A castle servant might be able to assist with this predicament. The demon queen urgently requires the presence of one named Sibit. This sun-kissed, diabolical handmaiden, adorned with a solitary horn upon her left temple, was but a summons away from attending to her mistress's bidding. Her obeisance may appear elegant and brimming with reverence, but in truth, Sibit possesses a mischievous spirit. That sly grin alone betrays her as anything but a conventional, compliant, and well-mannered servant. The demon queen displayed an unexpected deference towards her aide. She governs her subjects with remarkable care. She wasted no time in acquainting Tommy with Sibet, the demon queen's confidant and personal domestic. Sibet executed another graceful and respectful curtsy. However, the gaze she subsequently fixed upon him was rather intense and inquisitive. She unhesitatingly delved into his affairs, attempting physical contact while complimenting his handsome features. He may be attractive, but to Sibet, he projected an aura of fragility. This was hardly surprising, given his human origin. Sibet redirected her attention to the demon queen. She voiced skepticism, questioning if Itami could even endure 60 seconds. The reigning monarch and the erstwhile champion were completely oblivious to the meaning of this one-minute remark. The servant cheerfully clarified that a 5-century-old demon queen has but one need, a single requirement for a queen of such advanced age. Her explanation was delivered in the most suitable manner for all audiences. Using gestures, she implied it was time for their sovereign to consummate a union. Finding her subtlety insufficient, Sibert bluntly declared that the queen should relinquish her maidenhood, lest she remain eternally uninitiated. If the demon queen delays, Sibert threatened to usurp her mistress's claim on the newcomer. She would boldly seduce him, she proclaimed. As the saying goes, the demon queen swiftly shielded Adami's ears. Simultaneously, she imposed a financial penalty on Sibert, a reprimand for her indecorous conduct. That outburst resulted in a deduction of 1,000 gold coins. Judging by her dismayed expression, this appeared to be a frequent event, intended for the rebellious succubus. An intuition suggests it's for a similar motive. Consistently, the story resurfaced in her memory. A superior reducing your wages to a -1,000. Resembles a dragon, shedding its scales. Its authentic nature is unveiled. It's time to revisit the initial matter at hand. The reason for summoning Sibert in the first place. New garments for Tommy within this enormous fortress. Suitable attire is lacking. Garments fitting a typical human physique are unavailable. However, the Demon Queen's siblings' closet offers possibilities. Perhaps an ensemble that will suit the lad. Sibert possessed remarkable competence in such matters. She was exceptionally thorough, especially regarding the queen's well-being within the castle. Yet, her succubus instincts occasionally interfered. Identifying such instances was remarkably simple. A vibrant flush upon her bronze complexion was the telltale sign. Naturally, the Demon Queen effortlessly discerned the rebellious maid's thoughts. A mere glance, a fleeting moment, was all it took, and she wouldn't think twice about physically correcting her with a swift blow. Should Sibet's mind stray towards indecent notions, their current attire-related quest led them to the castle's archives, wherein some of the queen's siblings' garments were discreetly stored. Stacks upon stacks of clothing filled the vast chamber. An immense variety of apparel filled the expansive space. The trio had to divide and conquer, hoping to discover something suitable for Tommy. Astonishingly, these mounds of textiles belonged to a single individual. He must have been quite the sartorial enthusiast. This thought unexpectedly enraged the Demon Queen. Currently, her brother's paramour enjoyed adorning him like a plaything. Hence, his former wardrobe was discarded, left to occupy this storage area. Itami was apprehensive that the sibling might object, should they borrow his attire without consent. The queen, however, was fairly confident it would be fine. Her sibling never donned these garments in any case. He only preferred wearing that single dark overcoat, the one she had gifted him a while back. After a considerable amount of time had elapsed, rummaging through the vast piles of textiles, Sibet finally located something eye-catching and suitable for Itami. The monarch then addressed the former champion. She casually instructed him to disrobe. They needed to assess the fit. Itam was susceptible to yielding under pressure, so he promptly began removing his clothes before the two women, gradually revealing his well-defined physique. Witnessing this, both women felt a jolt of surprise. The Demon Queen even momentarily ceased her incessant smoking, stunned. Itami, oblivious, glanced at them both, and inquired why they were staring at him strangely, as if his muscular, scar-covered body wasn't unusual in the slightest. Demons, regardless of their audacity, inquiring about scars is considered impolite. It's a custom. However, both were intensely curious about Itami's. His unusually high number of markings intrigued them. After appearing like a vagrant for 2.5 years, the one-time hero finally looked presentable. He might not resemble a courageous champion, but he certainly appears pleasant. The succubus present would readily agree. She'd happily admit Itami was much more appealing. Completely unclothed, the Demon Queen intervened, threatening a second salary reduction that day. Otherwise, Sibet might have impulsively pounced on Itami. When alone, the Demon Queen's personal attendant uses her first name, Callie. Currently, she was occupied with administrative duties. Sibet desired to offer her a refreshment break. Her Majesty, the Demon Queen. Callie detests interruptions during her work. However, Sibeth's inquisitiveness was overwhelming. Regarding the origin of Itami's numerous bodily scars, Callie possessed some theories. Explaining the young man's markings proved challenging. Disclosing his identity as the legendary hero was impossible. Yet it was evident he frequently battled monstrous creatures. Sibet initially speculated that Itami was possibly a former explorer. A plausible hypothesis, indeed. Callie neither validated nor refuted her attendant's conjecture. To Sibet's knowledge, even demonic entities couldn't withstand such gruesome injuries. Moreover, such extensive trauma inflicts psychological damage. The queen overlooked this aspect. It further compounded the young man's suffering, adding to his already considerable burdens. She understood profoundly the mental toll of incessant combat, particularly against an adversary like her younger sibling. This subtle detail didn't elude Sibet's keen hearing. Callie had just made an unintentional error. She inadvertently disclosed that Itami had clashed with the queen's brother. Callie spoke frankly, abandoning all pretense. She readily inferred that Itami had engaged her younger brother in battle. At some point in the past, Only her sibling could inflict such damage on someone. This was a significant disclosure to her personal attendant. This implies Itami possesses exceptional strength. Confronting such a formidable foe is one matter. Emerging alive is an entirely different accomplishment. Itami is evidently merely a frail human. At that moment, Sibit recalled a critical detail pertinent to the topic. Her voice trembled as she conveyed to the queen that her brother was anticipated to arrive at the castle later that day. Should these two individuals encounter each other now, the consequences are unpredictable. Conjecture is no longer necessary. Sibit's dreaded premonition was already unfolding. Within the grand foyer of the Demon Lord's fortress, Itami and the queen's sibling, whose form still bore the marks of battle beneath numerous bandages, found themselves unexpectedly reunited. Their gazes locked. Adversaries who had clashed and brought each other to the brink, a hair's breadth from death. Yet, neither hostility nor trepidation lingered. However, the younger brother wouldn't permit this human to wander the castle unchallenged. He demanded Itami summon his weapon immediately. A pact of honor bound them. Itami had vowed to end his own life. For a fleeting instant, an unfamiliar expression, a hint of a smile, graced the former hero's lips. He lifted his scarred hand, beckoning his blade Sogi. The shared oath resurfaced in his memory. The fabled sword Sogi materialized, dashed through the castle corridors with astonishing velocity. It finally reached its destined location in Tommy's grasp. It was high time they honored the pact between them. Whatever the agreement entailed, twilight was approaching. The two men exited the Demon Lord's fortress. They sought to resolve their conflict. Their chosen method was utterly uncomplicated. Itami, visibly anxious, fumbled his words. He initiated the countdown. Extending his hands, he counted down from 3. The queen's sibling gazed directly at him. He seemed to assess the former hero as he reached 2. Dark circles were evident under Itami's eyes. Yet, a newfound spark of vitality shone within them. A stark contrast to his initial intrusion into the Demon Queen's throne room. He uttered 1. He commenced the battle by commanding his legendary blade. He ordered Sogi to join the fight immediately. Its speed was so immense, it produced a whistling sound. The blade moved erratically, rendering evasion incredibly challenging. However, the younger combatant possessed remarkable prowess. He was, after all, a formidable warrior in the Demon Lord's Legion. Nonchalantly, he leaped and landed upon the legendary weapon, as though it were a mere skateboard. This was hardly the conventional method for handling a flying sword. He was now astride the blade, yet its velocity remained undiminished. Itami was astonished by his opponent's unorthodox reaction to his swift assault as he summoned Sagi back to his grasp. Both combatants seemed rather distracted throughout the duel. Their actions deviated from their typical strategic maneuvers. They failed to effectively neutralize each other. They even committed the novice error of colliding with one another, as Sagi was recalled. Now, both lay prostrate on the earth. Fortunately, no serious wounds were sustained this time. All Lil Bro and Itami could utter was, "Holy crap!" Sagi, too, lay discarded amidst the dirt between them. A pregnant pause hung between the combatants. Then, a smirk spread across Little Bro's face. He appeared to be suppressing a chuckle. Finally, he could contain it no longer. Laughter erupted from him, as if this antic was the most hilarious thing he'd ever witnessed. He recognized that the crimson-haired youth hadn't even attempted to evade the imminent impact, despite possessing the full capacity to do so, though he was fully capable of avoiding it. Little Bro clutched his sides, overcome with mirth. The thought of such a clumsy second round sent him into fits of laughter, especially considering their initial encounter was anything but. His laughter continued unabated, while Itami grappled with the implications of his actions. He truly hadn't evaded the blow. He hadn't even made an attempt. Moments later, both fighters were in stitches, amused by the absurdity of their situation. The source of their amusement was unclear. Yet, it was a shared joke between them alone. As the chuckles gradually faded, the younger brother gently nudged the ex-hero's shoulder. Catching his attention, their gazes locked. A unique fraternal connection seemed to flow between them, a bond forged in the crucible of a harrowing experience. It resonated deeply. An unspoken understanding passed between them, profound and intimate. At last, the younger brother spoke from the heart, expressing his relief at Adami's survival to the former hero. It had been days since the young man had shed a tear. Yet, here he was overcome with emotion once more. Hearing such heartfelt words from a supposed adversary brought forth tears, welling up from a profound and unexpected kinship. They streamed down his face, a cascade of raw emotion. Over the past days, or perhaps months, time seemed to blur. He'd felt utterly unable to contain his tears, his feelings exposed and vulnerable. But today felt different, a shift in the tide of his emotions. He was composed, yet he consciously allowed himself to release the pent-up grief. It was reminiscent of that poignant night on the balcony with Demon Queen Callie. His younger brother teased him, comparing his tears to those of a young girl. But in the meantime, he grasped the situation. A pair of watchful eyes, filled with suspicion, were attempting to peer through the dense undergrowth. Seabeth was utterly perplexed. Mere months ago, these two nearly ended each other's lives. Their brutal encounter left lasting injuries and scars. Yet now, they conversed like old companions, reconnecting after a prolonged separation. Queen Callie simply attributed it to their masculine nature. Sibet, a succubus adept at manipulating men, even found this boy's conduct peculiar and baffling. Callie wholeheartedly concurred. The previous altercation, though it concluded without direct conflict, left Itami feeling depleted. The emotional outpouring had taken its toll. He contemplated why he hadn't even attempted to evade the attack. He pictured them both seated on the ground, amidst the damp soil. Itami vividly remembered little bro's emotions, overwhelmed with relief at his survival. After such a long time, a familiar feeling washed over him, reminiscent of the time. The Demon Queen magnanimously granted him sanctuary, a life within the castle walls as the new queen's protector. Her vow to use his true name resonated within him. Confined to this chamber, his only companion was Soggy. He felt unworthy of this newfound lightness, this unexpected joy he currently experienced. Perhaps so, but he yearned to embrace it. He desired, at the very least, to attempt a new beginning, to exist among these demons. They exhibited far greater kindness than the human kingdom ever had. Should he truly choose this path? His next challenge was determining how to commence. At this moment, he straightened, recalling his mother's wisdom from long ago. A living soul is a happy soul, she had once declared. The notion was simple, yet its application proved remarkably complex. For someone like Itami, burdened by immense trauma and emotional baggage, the simple realization of his own existence provided a sense of resolution. But the more perplexing question was how he could possibly find joy, considering all the hardships he had endured. In that instant, the legendary blade Soggy perceived his inner turmoil and offered a compassionate response. As the relentless march of time finally overtook him, Itami gazed directly into the luminescence, astonished by this unexpected phenomenon. A vivid vision materialized before him, a young girl feeding a rabbit. The creature, with its toothy smile, mirrored the girl's own gap-toothed grin. The girl addressed him as brother, her voice proclaiming that true happiness stemmed from giving, not receiving. Just look at her smile, a voice echoed. See how radiant it is, even without a perfect set of teeth. She's completely unfazed, overwhelmed with joy from nourishing the rabbit. The act of kindness, of aiding a vulnerable creature, brought clarity to Itami's mind. All doubts vanished. The answer was evident. Sogi simply needed to nudge and encourage him slightly. His initial desire was to venture into the world. He aimed to benefit both himself and others. Itami appeared overly enthusiastic, even for using the stairs. Instead, he leaped from his balcony. Hiro plummeted to the ground. He inquired if a maid required assistance. The maid was simply performing her duties. She sang carefree. She was startled by the sudden appearance. The queen's protector materialized unexpectedly. Saibet conducted her routine patrol of the castle. She observed this scene in the courtyard. Itami engaged with others. He wasn't gloomily secluded in his room. It was an unusual and peculiar occurrence. She observed discreetly from afar. The young man shyly aided the maid. The emerald-haired maid was captivated. She was utterly charmed, as a burst of excitement ignited within her. Meanwhile, Sibet observed from a distance. Her first thought went to Demon Queen Callie. She recalled how her beloved charge was almost snatched away right before her eyes. As if the traded words and meaningful looks weren't sufficient, the pair had progressed to subtle physical contact. In a short time, another day arrived. Another fresh escapade unfolded in the tranquil Demon Lord's fortress. Demon Queen Callie was utterly bewildered by the current events. She inquired of her personal attendant, Sibit, regarding the necessity of this spectacle, with a somber countenance, the succubus firmly declared that this issue demanded immediate attention. She went so far as to practically kidnap the unfortunate Atomy. She firmly bound him to a seat and silenced him with adhesive tape. The entire charade appeared utterly preposterous to the queen. Sibit simply yearned for her superior to grasp the situation, due to the near abduction of her charge. Another castle servant, a different maid, was the culprit. Callie was completely oblivious to the succubus's claims, nor was she particularly concerned. The maid pitied her mistress. Certainly, she held the title of the formidable demon queen, revered by her subjects and inspiring dread in her foes. Yet, she was a remarkably naive woman. In response, Callie menaced the maid with a 50% wage reduction. However, this bullying strategy had lost its effectiveness. It had reached the point of attempting to diminish what was already non-existent. It was no longer feasible. Itami's residency in the Demon Lord's fortress had spanned a mere fortnight. Within that brief interval, he consistently performed altruistic acts. These actions culminated in the formation of a devoted following. The members encompassed the maidservants and extended even to the queen's younger sibling. Now, the gravity of the situation dawned upon Callie. She finally grasped her personal attendant's perspective, was desperately trying to catch her attention. With these two formidable ladies joining forces, things were looking grim for our poor fellow. Sibit had a glimmer of an idea. She recalled reading that removing a male creature's testicles could make him more docile. Callie was consumed by her escalating fury. She concurred that Itami didn't need those anyway. Sibit was simply relieved her master finally agreed. After being so oblivious for so long, the pair immediately embarked on a quest for scissors. Itami was already panicking, overhearing this utterly insane discussion. He was helplessly restrained and silenced, unable to even cry out. Giving up on finding scissors, they settled on using a sword. Their search for scissors proved fruitless. Meanwhile, the younger brother and his statuesque, blonde companion were paying their respects at a gravesite, a short distance from the fortress. Suddenly, a prickling sensation washed over him. The fraternal bond he shared with Tommy filled him with a sense of profound unease. This compelled him to abruptly depart from the gravesite. He had to leave immediately with utmost haste. He instinctively knew his companion required his assistance. The younger brother sprinted with all his might towards the fortress. Within the Demon Queen's chambers, the two women continued their deliberation on the precise manner of Itami's castration. Employing a blade they worried might prove fatal to the young man due to the inherent fragility of human physiology. Unwittingly, the little brother had already infiltrated the room. He struggled to loosen the restraints, but Sibit's skill proved insurmountable. For reasons unknown, he remained oblivious to Itami's transgression. Callie contemplated abandoning the former hero to a lifetime of captivity, sparing him the agonizing emasculation. That strategy might be flawed, however. The little guy was literally dragging his entire seat to escape. First and foremost, Sibit wished to suggest an alternative approach, but Callie anticipated it would likely be indecent. She prevented the maid from elaborating. The following day dawned. The near-castration incident seemed forgotten. Itami was relaxing in the castle corridors. He observed a solitary notice affixed to a massive column. Queen Callie encountered him during her customary patrol. He was completely absorbed in the announcement. He remained oblivious to the queen's presence until she inquired about what he was examining. The ex-hero was captivated by the fireworks advertisement. He was unaware that demons also partook in the pyrotechnic festivities. Apparently, it was a multicultural celebration embraced by everyone. Each ethnicity on the continent observed their unique variation of the fireworks festival. The reason being, on this particular day, everyone commemorated those who were no longer among them. Mortality was a shared experience in this realm. Therefore, it was appropriate for all to honor the departed. Itami was clearly captivated not only by the handbill, but by the occasion itself. Queen Callie perceived this. Thus, she inquired of the young man if he desired to attend the festivities. Unhesitatingly, Itami responded affirmatively. However, he was obligated to fulfill his role as Callie's protector, remaining constantly by her side. In such circumstances, he must be prepared to defend the queen should any unforeseen events arise. Callie was somewhat astonished by the boy's sensible response. Nevertheless, she understood his yearning to witness the pyrotechnic display. Observing his hands, she noticed him tightly gripping a pyrotechnic formula. She concluded that Itami must have deeply desired to attend. For some inexplicable reason, naturally, there's a sensible middle ground. If he couldn't depart without her, they should simply embark together. His gaze appeared somber, as if recalling a haunting memory or individual. Queen Callie's cheeks flushed crimson at the realization that suggesting a joint festival outing would undoubtedly resemble a romantic invitation. Concluding it wouldn't be so terrible, she boldly pushed past the awkwardness and abruptly posed a question. Perhaps we could attend the fireworks festival together? Her voice remained steady, but her blush revealed a different narrative. She explained, since she also desired to experience the festival, they might as well go as companions. This alleviated some of the palpable tension. Now, she wasn't the sole one blushing. Itami's ears were turning a vibrant shade of red as well. The arrangement appeared to be solidified. However, their initial step involved delivering the pyrotechnic formula. Atami was clutching it tightly. It needed to reach the infernal pyrotechnics expert. This entire exchange, naturally, unfolded under the watchful eyes of three recognizable individuals, concealed within a decorative planter. The younger brother questioned if his hearing deceived him. Overhearing his elder sister propose a date felt unbelievable. Sabbath confirmed they had heard everything accurately. The Sovereign of Demons was embarking on a festival outing with her protector. Thus, Operation Kali Exotami commenced. It initiated at this very moment. The operatives even sported stylish shades befitting the clandestine mission. The Demon Queen and the erstwhile champion departed the fortress. Their destination, the periphery of the demonic domain, where the renowned Elder Hang resided. She was a benevolent elderly demoness. If a demon appears aged, it signifies their truly advanced age by mortal standards. With a gentle turn of her head, she acknowledged the demon lord's presence. Callie nudged Tommy, explaining the reason for their presence. They intended to commission a pyrotechnic display for the impending fireworks celebration. Her protector already clutched the formula in his grasp. Itami swiftly presented Granny Hang the time-worn firework instructions. It appeared to have endured significant wear and tear. Crimson stains marred the parchment. Presumably, these were bloodstains. Granny Hang was delighted by the sight of such a vintage formula. She had been crafting fireworks for festivities for 500,000 years. Throughout that extensive period, she couldn't recall the last time she created a firework for an ordinary mortal. Itami, a courteous lad, deferentially offered the recipe to the elderly woman. He expressed gratitude for her assistance. However, before he could fully articulate his thanks, the demonic Granny produced a peculiar contraption. To prick his hand, Queen Callie neglected to mention that this ancient demon incorporated blood into her pyrotechnics. That explained why she extracted some from Itami. In a fleeting instant, the elderly woman already suspected this particular pyrotechnic display would be remarkable. She glanced at her two guests, intrigued by what the demon queen was doing with a human. In broad daylight, the elder observed the apparent lovers caring for each other. Itami still trembled from the shock, while Callie soothed the minor cut on his finger. While crafting the prospective fireworks, the grandmother inquired of the pair. She asked the youngsters if they knew the origins of the demon's firework festival celebrations. Itami confidently declared he'd read somewhere that 5 centuries ago, the human kingdom's first ruler created the initial fireworks. This prompted a swift and vehement rebuttal from the aged demon. She asserted that the tale of the first human king was fabricated by foolish humans. For foolish humans. Moreover, that bothersome human species, always attempting to claim demonic achievements as their own. As she finalized this volatile concoction, Granny opted to share with the pair the genuine origins of the pyrotechnic festivities. It all commenced ages ago. Eons ago, in fact, back when the entire landmass could be deemed a tranquil haven. The incidents that birthed contemporary pyrotechnics originated one evening 500 millennia in the past. It began with a demonic maiden relaxing in a sprawling meadow. That meadow is now recognized as the Demon Kingdom's domain. The demon girl cherished reclining on the placid grasslands, while admiring the breathtaking celestial bodies. It was flawless. The night sky was magnificent. Yet if prompted for a single alteration, she'd yearn to draw the stars a bit nearer, as if a deity had granted her desire. A radiant luminescence commenced traversing the heavens. It resembled a star ascending, and ascend to join the others above. Then, it detonated with a thunderous roar. The sudden burst of light scattered across the heavens, directly above where the demon girl's gaze was fixed. It was breathtaking, perhaps even more magnificent than the stars she held so dear. Her heart skipped a beat at the sight of the vibrant explosion. It was so incredibly near. She rose from the grassy field and raced through the forest, attempting to locate the origin of the exploding star. She was certain the enigmatic phenomenon originated from this direction, and she yearned to unravel the enigma. The demon girl could sense it. She had a feeling that she was mere meters from realizing her aspiration, to draw the celestial bodies closer. Just a bit nearer, perhaps. More than just a bit, perhaps with this, she could practically graze them. Close enough to brush her fingers against the celestial brilliance. Before she realized it, the demon maiden found herself gasping for air, tears streaming down her face. The thought of her dream nearing fruition overwhelmed her. On the far side of the soaring, detonating star, she discovered a human, a young man berating himself for misjudging the luminosity of his so-called pyrotechnics. A crimson blush crept onto the demon girl's cheeks at the sight of him. She knew instinctively that he possessed the power to fulfill her deepest desire, perhaps even more. Curiosity was her nature, and the young man proved quite amiable. The demon girl had never encountered anything like it. This radiant spectacle called fireworks. The concept intrigued her. She yearned to witness him create another one. The young man's spirits instantly lifted. His previous disappointment vanished. With invigorated resolve and zeal, he braced himself for another attempt. Mirroring her aspirations, this was his life's central ambition. The fire of determination glimmered in his eyes as he pledged to craft the most magnificent and radiant pyrotechnic display the world had ever witnessed. Its brilliance would surpass even the celestial bodies above. His creation would emanate such luminosity that his mother would perceive it instantly, regardless of the distance or her location. The demonic maiden sensed the youth's fervor as he articulated his desire to forge something visible, even to inhabitants of otherworldly realms. She marveled at the entirety of his ambition and everything about the boy. Like a cherished fable, it was as if they were merging fantasy with actuality. It felt unreal. The young man realized he was becoming overwhelmed by his emotions once more, and expressed remorse for his seemingly absurd pronouncements. Considering their recent introduction, his resolute gaze profoundly captivated the demoness. Rather than reprimanding him for his audacious aspirations, she met his eyes and simply refused. He wasn't being naive or anything of the sort, at least not in her estimation. The evening of their first encounter marked the genesis of a burgeoning affection. For the first time, she experienced the stirrings of a dream. Yet, until this moment, its attainment remained elusive. The demoness perceived the young man as remarkably courageous. In a realm where visionaries are scarce, such fervent passion was exceptionally rare, striving for the extraordinary amidst the mundane. The tedium of everyday existence gave life meaning. Despite their recent introduction, the demoness solidified her commitment. She would remain steadfastly by his side, witnessing the unfolding of his aspirations. Like celestial bodies illuminating the night, she yearned to partake in his remarkable odyssey. As those aspirations gradually materialized, an opportunity to cherish a kindred spirit with every pulse. Until her final respiration several years prior, the young demoness had inherited an enchantment with the celestial bodies. From her mother, she inquired why they glimmered unfailingly each night and never seemed to weary. Her mother elucidated patiently that stars are akin to extraordinary companions who tirelessly delight others. A star is an individual who derives joy from bringing smiles to faces. Thus, every evening they adorn themselves in their most radiant, luminous attire simply to evoke a sincere grin. That is the star's unwavering nightly ritual. They shimmer and gleam to illuminate the shadowy world. They instill feelings of security and contentment. The demon girl's other query lingered. Why do the stars never pause for respite? Her mother simply stated, they don't. Stars perpetually observe everyone from above. They act as sentinels of the nocturnal heavens and desire to be present for all. Whenever they feel the slightest inclination to gaze upwards, regardless of the time, it's their method of conveying to everyone that, even amidst darkness, a glimmer of light always guides us. For some inexplicable reason, The demonic maiden reminisced about this distant memory with her mother. She already grasped the underlying cause, or at least she believed she did. She had finally located the most radiant, most luminous celestial body in existence. She perceived it within that young man. With his vibrant, spirited gaze, he had swiftly become her personal star. He effectively realized her aspiration of drawing the stars nearer. Just slightly. It turned out she only required one. From this juncture, nothing would impede her affection and her ambition. His eyes held hope, overflowing with potent energy, capable of invigorating anything. He might be a bit ostentatious and perpetually striving for attention, but his persistence is paramount. In that respect, he possesses remarkable strength, possessing exceptional strength. His kindness and constant smile illuminated his every endeavor. He derived joy from the simplest pleasures. Therefore, she endeavors to assist him with all her capabilities. However, life's harsh realities impose limitations. The demoness finds herself unable to aid the young man. In numerous situations, he tirelessly labors for the well-being of both. His dedication sometimes leads to exhaustion-induced collapse. As his devoted spouse, she gave her utmost. He was her beloved, her soulmate. She supported him with unwavering resolve. He was, after all, her cherished guiding star. The demoness held a deep affection for the young man for an extended period. Her love endured until his old age. Even when he struggled to take a few steps, she retained her youthful demonic appearance. She cherished Izumi, the pyrotechnician, until he finally completed what he proudly deemed his magnum opus. Despite his silver hair and aged countenance, the man's gaze remained unwavering. His eyes still held the spark of a visionary, the look of someone yearning to share something remarkable with the world. Content only when his creation could be deemed a true spectacle of pyrotechnics. His eyes might yet shimmer with brilliance, but his physique had become delicate. Periodically, he required respite. Beneath the canopy where the lovers initially encountered, the demoness cautioned him against overexertion, a frequent refrain, yet Izumi remained youthful in spirit. However, time's toll was not imperceptible to him. He recognized his beloved spouse's perpetual concern for his well-being. Lately, expressions of gratitude felt inadequate. Endless thanks would never compensate for the affection and devotion she had bestowed upon him over countless years. Despite the passage of time, the demoness still flushed crimson at Izumi's kindness. This was the eve the couple had eagerly awaited. As twilight descends, the stars emerge to illuminate the night sky. Decades have passed since they first met, yet the demon girl still finds solace, resting her head upon Izumi's once broad and powerful shoulders. In his twilight years, Izumi is reminded of his mother and the home they shared. He recalls her constant smile. While watching pyrotechnic displays, he believed his mother's smile outshone every firework in existence. A persistent question lingered in the young man's heart. When would his mother gaze upon him with the same adoration she held for the fireworks? For a considerable period, fireworks failed to elicit a smile from Izumi. Instead, they brought him to tears. They evoked sorrow within him. Fireworks represented the precariousness of his existence. They served as a reminder of fate's cruel hand, the harshness of the adults who surrounded him in his youth. Rather than succumbing to despair, he embarked on a quest, determined to craft the most spectacular pyrotechnic display ever witnessed. Perhaps achieving this would alter his destiny. Perhaps the wounds of his past would finally cease to ache. And perhaps, just perhaps, for the very first time, Izumi's mother would gaze upon him with the same adoration she held for fireworks. The young man endeavored to impress his despicable mother, but achieved something far more profound. In his yearning to create the world's most brilliant spectacle, Izumi discovered the most radiant woman he had ever known. The culmination of decades of dedication was shared with the woman he cherished. He had indeed crafted the most dazzling fireworks display the world had ever witnessed. Yet, their brilliance was eclipsed by his beloved. As Izumi's heart gradually faltered, as the relentless march of time finally overtook him, he didn't even glance skyward to admire his creation. His gaze was fixed solely upon his wife's beautiful smile. He quakes, his respiration grows shallow. His heartbeat falters, losing its steady cadence. Izumi, the dreamer, last witnessed the world's most exquisite sight, more radiant than any pyrotechnics he could craft, more brilliant than any celestial body in the heavens. It was his wife's authentic, heartfelt smile. Her gaze held boundless affection and fidelity. Her lips, a constant source of uplifting pronouncements. Izumi faced early hardships, but concluded his journey with a magnificent spectacle. The demonic maiden neared the sole star of consequence. Yet, time and fate, in their ruthlessness, claimed him prematurely. As the pyrotechnic display faded, only the frigid, inky blackness of night remained. No celestial body could compare. Izumi passed away with a serene smile gracing his lips. His demise was as brilliant as a star's. Now she was utterly alone. She was back to the beginning. Back to an existence devoid of ambition. Back to a life without her guiding star. Before fully surrendering to the relentless march of time, Izumi managed to jot down his final sentiments for his cherished love. He conveyed his appreciation for their shared moments. His parting desire was for his cremated remains to become a pyrotechnic display. The Oni was perplexed by this request. It was incredibly abrupt. One moment they were together. The next, solitude enveloped her. The ensuing days were a hazy blur. She was perpetually in a state of bewilderment and incredulity. Suddenly, she found herself incinerating Izumi's earthly form to gather his ashes. Meticulously, she adhered to the instructions, gleaned from years of observing her spouse, performed the meticulous craft of firework creation. She honored his dying wish. His remains were to become a final, spectacular pyrotechnic display. Within the forest where their paths first intertwined, she solemnly ignited a small arrangement, her husband's last testament. The demoness performed each action flawlessly. Every movement was instinctual, unthinking. She functioned as if guided by an unseen force. Izumi's essence, his aspirations, his ambitions, his very existence, all contained within 3 miniature explosive receptacles. His parting blasts were not especially grand, nor were they exceptionally radiant. They were understated, delicate, crafted with sorrow and affection. It was Izumi's final offering to the world. The demoness observed the man she cherished transform into a vibrant, fleeting remembrance. As the brilliance faded, she was left utterly bereft. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, her response was markedly different. Instead of the unresponsive state she'd been in, her hands trembled as she brought them to her face. The sorrow, the agony, the affection, the yearning, and all the emotions between, absolutely everything, erupted like a single, colossal firework. She was utterly heartbroken. Maintaining her composure required every ounce of strength. After the emotional outpouring subsided, she remained a mere shadow of her former self. The demonic young woman, in case you haven't deduced, is called Hang like Granny Hang. Izumi imparted this knowledge, explaining that in his homeland, on a different planet, people ignite numerous fireworks annually. He enthusiastically recounted the tale of how his mother experienced unparalleled joy every year on that particular occasion, and his mother's happiness brought Izumi equal delight. Izumi had long associated his fondness for pyrotechnics with his mother. It may seem foolish, but that was his sole motivation. Back then, Hang recalled Izumi stating that fireworks allowed him to retain the memory of his mother's visage. And perhaps, through these pyrotechnic displays, Hang could achieve the same for him. Returning to the present, millennia later, Elder Hang concluded her narrative. It explained how this occasion aids demons in preserving the memories of their cherished departed. Ages ago, regardless of the time elapsed since a beloved's passing, the shared spectacle of fireworks will forever etch their countenance in your memory. Any significant individual lost to time will briefly resurface amidst the dazzling bursts. That's the purpose behind pyrotechnic formulas like Itami's. The radiant glimmer of fireworks crafted from his lifeblood. And this recipe will momentarily resurrect the departed. For a fleeting instant, as the pyrotechnics paint the night sky with vibrant shades. Just as the tale concluded, Granny Hang presented the former champion with the firework he desired to craft. Using the well-worn formula, this artifact will finally enable him to reunite with his mentor. That woman was blunt. She often called Atomy idiot boy, even before they were formally acquainted. Today marks the full commencement of Operation Kali X Atomy, with the younger sibling spearheading the endeavor. The mission officially begins tomorrow evening. On the eve of the fireworks spectacle, The younger brother approaches this with utmost seriousness. Sabo and his sweetheart comprise the remaining team members. There exists a singular primary objective. The younger brother opted to illustrate this objective, employing peculiar voodoo figurines of his companion and elder sister. He compels them into a passionate embrace. The queen's personal attendant is fully committed. She deems it a flawless strategy. Conversely, the younger brother's girlfriend experiences a wave of nausea at the mere notion. Being rather timid, this seemed an impeccable strategy, were it not for one major and conspicuous obstacle. Brandishing his disturbing voodoo figurines once more, he began forcefully colliding the two figures. His exasperation stemmed from Itami and Callie's inaction. Their reluctance to initiate a kiss on their own frustrated him. The task force's initial objective: decipher the reason behind the couple's hesitation. These youthful and attractive individuals avoid any lip-to-lip contact. When little bro solicited suggestions, the succubus's immediate thought was rather indelicate. Perhaps the demon queen finds Tommy's endowment unsatisfactory. This remark caused little bro's girlfriend to blush intensely. Sibit's participation in the planning stage was positive. However, little bro doubted the validity of her hypothesis. He speculated that his sister disliked Atomy due to the poor fellow's resemblance to charred timber, or perhaps something even less appealing. The solution is rather straightforward. They should simply enhance Atomy's appeal. That's when his significant other enters the scene. Her assistance is crucial for this endeavor. No one else can resolve this predicament. Only his cherished partner possesses the necessary skills. Locating Itami shouldn't be difficult. Simply check the castle's secluded areas, perhaps where a young man might seek solace. Little bro's task is to find Itami and improve his appearance. After procuring fireworks for his mentor, Itami couldn't help but recall shared moments, like that evening by the campfire following a brutal clash. The renowned blade Sagi was stained with the blood of freshly slain adversaries. Even then, his instructor still called him a foolish lad. She refused to address him by name or even as a hero. She regarded him as an oblivious, insignificant nuisance. Her blunt words could be rather cutting. That evening, she inquired about his true identity. Itami was a novice in this realm back then. His body lacked the numerous battle scars it now bears. The prominent mark on his face was also absent. He simply declared himself the hero. This was when he still took pride in the title. He reveled in being known as humanity's savior, the hero. He believed he was destined to vanquish the demon lord. He'd rescue humanity from certain doom, or some such foolish notion. He was brimming with zeal and purpose in those days. His green-haired tutor observed him with a pitiful gaze. Upon grasping the sincerity of his declaration, she gasped, attempting to suppress her laughter. She couldn't quite conceal her mirth. The impending giggle proved unstoppable. Her laughter escalated until tears streamed down her face. When questioned about her outburst, she brushed off Itami's irritation. She simply felt the urge to laugh. Returning to the present, within the demon lord's fortress, the young mistress is in a foul mood. She paces the corridors, searching for the guard. She harbors no affection for him. Yet, she was tasked with making him somewhat appealing. Truthfully, she loathed the young man intensely. Each time, she recalls her beloved's condition. Following his encounter with Itami, she feels a surge of helplessness, then fury consumes her. She utterly despises the new queen's protector for the harm inflicted upon her lover. Furthermore, locating someone in this enormous labyrinthine fortress is challenging. She trembles with unrestrained anger, yanking her hair in exasperation. After ranting and struggling to contain her overwhelming rage, it seemed fate intervened, preventing her from losing control. Itami stood before her unexpectedly, milling about like a listless specter. Time leaps forward to the evening of the pyrotechnic spectacle. A dashing gentleman with a fresh haircut stood among the lively throng. He appeared to be searching for someone. It seems little bro's sweetheart did a splendid job enhancing the former hero's appeal, making him just a tad more alluring. With stylish attire and a sharp trim, he looked considerably more refined than upon his initial arrival at the demon lord's fortress. Back then, he resembled a vagrant. The festival lights shone brilliantly, yet a perceptible shadow lingered in the young man's gaze. He had improved significantly, however. He couldn't help but recall his tutor that evening. When she questioned his identity, his contemplation was interrupted, as a seductive tone pierced the crowd's chatter. Beckoning him, uttering his name, he pivoted still, unaccustomed to the demon's acceptance. Those surrounding him were courteous enough to use his given name. The moment he glimpsed the possessor of the alluring voice, his pupils widened. A warm flush crept across his cheeks. Demon Queen Callie had exchanged her customary battle garb for a ceremonial kimono. It was his inaugural sighting of her in alternative attire. His altered appearance and coiffure didn't go unnoticed either. The Demon Queen expressed astonishment. Itami casually mentioned getting a trim. He credited his younger brother's sweetheart for the new look. For unknown reasons, Queen Callie still harbored a profound and intense animosity towards the girl. She frequently referred to the statuesque blonde as a derogatory term, just as the perplexed Itami prepared to question her word choice. The queen hastened to his side. Callie possessed considerable strength, befitting a demon sovereign. She effortlessly pulled her bodyguard along the thoroughfare to circumvent discussing that detestable blonde woman. Amidst the throng, that very woman lingered, standing ominously close to one of the festive stalls. Apparently, she too opted on a customary garment. Her eyes remained perpetually concealed beneath those outrageous bangs. Thus, deciphering her thoughts proves challenging at any particular juncture, but in that instant, her fury at what she'd overheard was palpable. This was the acknowledgement she garnered for her endeavors. A few days prior, Little Bro's daughter practically kidnapped Itami. He was wandering the castle corridors like a specter when she subjected him to a compulsory makeover. Bound to a chair, Itami was clueless about the unfolding events, her mind fixated on her beloved state. Following that dreadful altercation, she poised her shears, intended for trimming hair. Yet, fleetingly, she felt a compulsion to simply sever, or perhaps stab Itami in the neck. In the meantime, the erstwhile champion was simply being courteous. After all, he was receiving a complimentary trim. The silence in the chamber was also unsettling. He contemplated initiating a dialogue. Her thoughts, however, were drastically different. Homicide occupied her mind. Itami broke the silence. He reminisced about his elder sister providing similar haircuts. This was long ago, in a different realm, a place he portrayed as his native village. But upon becoming a celebrated figure, masquerading as an adventurer, seeking his sister for a trim became impractical due to the distance. Consequently, Itami had endured this unkempt state for a considerable period. This exchange was precarious. He narrowly avoided several potentially revealing slips. He almost exposed his heroic identity. As the statuesque blonde continued trimming his hair, she occasionally entertained thoughts of severing his jugular. Itami endured the uncomfortable silence hanging between them. She finally broke the quiet, uttering her first words to him. She inquired if he felt isolated. Had no one trimmed his hair since he embraced the adventurer's life? Itami responded honestly, stating that wasn't entirely accurate. Throughout his journey in this realm, some individuals had shown him kindness. He'd had the privilege of learning from an exceptional mentor, and a young girl had once affectionately called him Big Brother. They had shared moments of joy in the past. He couldn't forget his mentor's boisterous nature. The man had been a rowdy and outspoken individual, nor could he forget the sweetness and compassion of the little girl. He had cherished her as a younger sibling. Those were happier times, but misfortune had relentlessly pursued him. Even in this desolate land, that little girl's innocent smile had been replaced with agony and terror. Her head had been gruesomely impaled upon a stake. The most exceptional teacher he could have asked for had perished in his embrace, succumbing to overwhelming forces after a harrowing battle. Fate had cruelly ensured he would lose everything he held dear, enduring the loss of everyone he cherished. Listening to Adami recount his sorrows brought Blondie to tears. Subconsciously, to avoid appearing vulnerable, she adamantly denied weeping, claiming it was merely condensation forming in her eyes. The hairdressing appointment was lengthy, but her dexterity with the shears was remarkable. Each snip was executed flawlessly. Overall, it was a top-tier comprehensive service. As the appointment concluded, her thoughts drifted back to Noah, affectionately known as her little brother. The night they discovered Noah remained etched in her memory. Following the confrontation with Itami, they utilized their available resources to provide him with the best possible care. The unfortunate young man couldn't even eat unaided. Noah mentioned his adversary sustained injuries as severe as his own. At the time, they didn't dwell on it. Now, aware of Adami's true identity, they recognized his inherent kindness and diligent nature. She ponders the extent of his suffering. He endured countless agonizing wounds, with no one to offer solace or care. Out of everyone, she uniquely understands the profound loneliness, the feeling of utter abandonment. She was an elf residing in the demon lord's fortress. Adding to her plight, her ears were severed. In both demon and elven societies, mutilated ears symbolize immense disgrace. She had triumphantly completed Tommy's transformation. It was magnificent. This man, whose hair she had just styled, had the audacity to harm someone who genuinely cherished her. He disregarded her imperfections, her humiliatingly cropped ears. Noah, a compassionate soul and the demon lord's sibling, possessed a benevolent nature. He readily pardoned Tommy for their past transgressions, but Blondie struggles to find forgiveness within herself. Lost in these thoughts, amidst the bustling festival throng, Noah's arrival startled her with a playful fright. Naturally, this earned him a resounding smack on the head. He was acting like a silly goofball. Noah and his sweetheart soon reconcile, and now they amble through the festival grounds. They browse the various booths, reveling in the merrymaking. Hand in hand, he bought her a candied apple to nibble on as they strolled along. She seemed to have a fondness for confectionaries. For some inexplicable reason, she peered at Noah sideways. Her clipped left ear peeked out from beneath her hair. However, she wasn't the only one nearby bearing this mark of disgrace. Noah had one as well. Both their left ears were ignominiously snipped. The reason remained a mystery. While she examined his left ear, Noah interrupted her reverie. In his typically relaxed manner, he acknowledged her skill in making a Tommy exceedingly appealing. In truth, she was exceptionally talented, that even his younger sibling felt compelled to bestow a kiss upon the fellow. But in all seriousness, this holds significant weight for Noah. He felt indebted to his girlfriend for carrying it out, despite it being a rather challenging request. He's aware of her aversion to humans, particularly those who dared to inflict harm upon her cherished ones. Yet, she proceeded with the task to assist his companion, and Noah couldn't be more thankful. Amidst those heartfelt words, she couldn't suppress her blush. Noah might exhibit childish behavior occasionally, but he possesses a surprising level of maturity. Such instances evoke a dreadful recollection within her. The time she was apprehended by human traffickers. Those individuals were profoundly disturbed. Their morbid curiosity extended to the taste of elf ears. Her family lacked the financial means for her redemption. Thus, the abductors had absolute liberty to inflict their will upon the young elf. She was helpless, exposed, and terrified. But just then, the cry of another child, screaming at the abductors to leave her alone, offered the young elf a glimmer of hope. The captors nearly overlooked their other prisoner. They had seized this youngster alongside other demons, confining him in one of the cages. The capture occurred near the boundary, separating human and demon territories. It was a youthful Noah, a demon child, who had clearly endured relentless torment throughout his confinement in this dreadful place. The abductors consented to remove their filthy hands from the elf girl, but demanded an alternative means of satiating their hunger. Their counterproposal: they would sever and consume Noah's ears. These captors were well aware of the cultural weight and profound humiliation that demons associate with the loss of one's ears. The captor positioned the elf girl before him, posing a question to the small boy. Was he prepared to bear such disgrace on behalf of a stranger, an elf girl, who had essentially been forsaken? His family's influence is so vast, Noah doesn't need to lift a finger. As royalty, his family has arranged for his redemption. The abductor continued, "Your father will be deeply ashamed when you return to the castle, bearing the mark of disgrace." Yet, even as a child, Noah possessed unwavering resolve. His father instilled in him that a demon's purpose is to aid the vulnerable. Gazing into the eyes of the frightened young girl, he realized no one needed his help more. Even if it meant a life of humiliation, even if it meant sacrificing his dignity, even if it meant enduring agonizing pain, he would willingly deny himself. Despite his royal lineage, Noah would endure the torment in silence, a true demon. Now, an adult, the elf still recalled the unwavering determination in Noah's eyes within that dark cell. She, on the contrary, she was merely a vulnerable child who had abandoned all hope. Trepidation consumed her, anticipating the impending events. Those agonizing recollections have remained etched in her memory. Even now, with each passing day, her affection and appreciation for Noah continue to blossom. She would willingly sacrifice everything for him. Returning to our central protagonists, Callie and Tommy have escaped the tumultuous main street. They left behind the bustling festival booths and the clamoring crowds. Both cherish the tranquility of the cliff overlooking the marketplace. Moreover, it offers the optimal vantage point for the fireworks display. It should commence shortly. However, it appears they've arrived prematurely. Thus, a brief wait is necessary. Even before the pyrotechnics began, the night sky was already presenting a breathtaking spectacle. A meteor shower commenced, cascading across the heavens. Itami gazed intently at the celestial bodies. He was captivated by their immense grandeur and splendor. Queen Callie, however, did not share his fascination. Her attention was drawn to her protector. She yearned to decipher his thoughts. Lost in contemplation, her gaze fixed on the young man. Memories of their initial encounter surfaced. Itami strangely resembled a destitute vagrant. Even more striking was his demeanor, like a tormented soul yearning for the cessation of suffering. Without further deliberation, Callie inquired about his suicidal ideation that day. Itami briefly paused, contemplating a response to the profoundly weighty inquiry. He finally spoke, uttering the first thought that materialized. He desired death by the demon queen's hand. He felt utterly degraded and worthless, completely lost and bewildered. Itami was utterly ignorant of this world. Consequently, he placed his trust in his summoners, those who had ripped him from his homeland. Comprehension of this world arrived only after he had already been bereaved of those individuals that have become profoundly cherished by him. Grasping the entirety of the conflict between demons and humankind, he descended into self-loathing. Shame and remorse consumed him for his reprehensible conduct. In retrospect, each glimpse of his reflection in mirrors or water immediately evoked a powerful urge to retch. For one hailed as humanity's deliverer, the alleged champion of this narrative, his sentiments toward the entire ordeal were anything but valiant. To this, the demon queen posed a straightforward inquiry. She questioned whether Itami comprehended that assuming the role of the hero was not obligatory. As if struck by a sudden epiphany, his perspective began to crumble. Carly pressed further, inquiring if he genuinely desired to be the hero in the first place. The question was unprecedented. Throughout his confinement in this alien world, the concept of heroism remained uncharted territory. Itami's thoughts began to race. He found himself reminiscing about his life in the metropolis. Back on Earth, his sister constantly hailed him as her champion. But heroism took on a completely different meaning in this new realm. She still considered him a savior. Every time he rescued her hunger with his culinary skills, he always brushed off her gratitude for such simple acts. After all, she worked tirelessly at 2 jobs just to keep them afloat. This small gesture was insignificant compared to her endless sacrifices. Throughout their lives, his sister's love for him was immense. In her eyes, no one was more endearing and precious than her little brother. Similarly, she felt she was simply fulfilling her role as an older sibling. She even lamented her inability to do more, to provide more. But hope remained, and he shouldn't fret. She was confident she'd eventually make a groundbreaking discovery in the realm of string theory. Then, wealth would flow to them like an unstoppable current. Ever since their mother's passing, the siblings had endured challenging circumstances. She reassured her younger brother, alleviating his anxieties. His dependable older sister would eventually resolve everything. They would attain a life of ease and contentment. At this precise juncture, a pivotal incident dramatically altered their trajectory. Their lives were irrevocably changed. A vibrant emerald radiance engulfed their small apartment. Atomy was the epicenter of this unusual phenomenon. Gradually, this enigmatic green luminescence enveloped him. It appeared to consume him entirely. Before being thrust into another realm, his final act was to cry out to his sister. Terror was etched upon his countenance. Bewilderment filled his eyes as the familiar sight of their home, and his steadfast older sister slowly faded, replaced by a colossal chamber. It resembled a grand cathedral. Then, the harsh, arrogant voice of the man who had tormented him for the past 2.5 years resonated. The man uttered the name that would forever define him and induce nausea upon each hearing. Hero, a naive monarch, possessing all the riches, renown, and power within the realm. The individual who would crush his desire to exist has beckoned him for the supposed privilege of rescuing the nation. Reflecting one of the initial commands the king issued, was to express gratitude for a purposeful life. That alone should have been a glaring warning sign. He didn't request this. He was unaware of his location, this arrogant fool's identity, or his sister's fate. Thus, he found himself in this enchanted world. Our melancholic hero's saga continues shortly. Stay tuned. After Demon Queen Callie inquired about Tommy's heroic aspirations, his mind instantly flashed back. He vividly recalled the day he was brought into this realm. Once the wicked monarch targeted our protagonist, everything rapidly descended into wickedness. His existence became filled with endless screams and torment. He endured until his voice grew hoarse from the relentless suffering. Blindfolded and riddled with injuries, Idemi was subjected to the most brutal and savage torture imaginable. For 6 months, he remained shackled to a cold surface, where a deranged physician performed agonizing and merciless experiments upon him. Endlessly, after enduring relentless agony throughout the day, the knights offered a semblance of restorative care. The solace provided by the healing incantations was a twisted form of torment. Complete recuperation merely signaled the restart of the horrific cycle. The entire ghastly ordeal would commence anew. The tyrannical sovereign orchestrated this sadistic scheme. He relentlessly observed the proceedings with his vacant, emotionless gaze. Only a single individual questions his dubious tactics. What purpose does this torment ultimately serve? It's the individual Adami recognizes as his mentor. She inquires how the supposed champion will remain loyal to the kingdom, especially after enduring the horrors of that accursed chamber. How could someone subjected to such brutality desire to save the world? The king dismisses these concerns. After all, he orchestrated this entire situation. Thus, the unfortunate hero would believe he was abducted by demonic entities. This scoundrel adamantly believes their barbaric actions are justified. They serve a higher purpose. They examined Tommy's mana core and discovered he possessed an extraordinary gift. The boy harbors the legendary dark mana core within him. Any respectable warrior knows of this phenomenon. The dark mana core is an anomaly. The last individual to possess it was the renowned Dragon Slayer hero. Those with this exceptional attribute can transform physical suffering, transforming anguish and unadulterated loathing into a reservoir of immense power. Moreover, Itami's mana hearth possesses boundless capacity. He wields the potential to surpass even the reigning sovereign in strength. The deranged monarch is enacting all of this under a delusional pretense. He believes he's safeguarding his subjects from demonic forces. He's subjecting a mere adolescent to unspeakable atrocities. These horrors exceed the limits of human comprehension. He dismisses this as insignificant. They can simply reprogram the hero's mind whenever necessary. Thus, the king would possess his own personal puppet assassin. Today marked a departure from the customary torment. Following a dose of suffering, it's time for practical combat exercises. The king desires the hero to venerate his pronouncements. His words are to be regarded as the sole universal truth. This would enable him to channel the youth's hatred and direct it towards all demonic entities. The emerald-haired mentor worries about the hero's teenage fragility. His mental state must be incredibly volatile. However, the kingdom boasts the realm's most skilled healers. They can effectively mend practically any grievous injury. Can you fathom the sheer terror that gripped Adami? For an agonizing 6 months, an eternity in his young life, he was miles away from his loved ones, relocated to a bizarre, unfamiliar land populated by truly deranged individuals. Adami was disoriented, terrified, and everything in between. After regaining consciousness from the overwhelming agony, he encountered a massive, shackled, and injured beast many times his size. Each day, he believed demons tormented him for their amusement. Today was no exception. They devised a novel way to further torment his already shattered spirit. Yet, a glimmer of hope emerged. When the physician promised his release, if he could slay the creature, the medics would address any significant injuries, allowing him to battle without concern for his well-being. Because regardless of his desires, he was immortal. The king's objective, to crush the young hero's spirit. The king's plan to mold him into the perfect warrior was materialized, a champion crafted by a sovereign for his subjects. The secluded arena, designed for deadly combats between prisoners and captives, had been exceptionally busy recently. The youthful hero, Atami, had been confronting creatures, far surpassing his capabilities, for a considerable period. Each time he suffered a potentially fatal wound, an injury that would have felled an ordinary man. The kingdom's physicians were invariably present at the critical moment to ensure his survival. His sole thought was consumed by the agonizing pain. Past injuries tormented him, present wounds agonized him, and the inevitability of future suffering loomed. At the beast's hands, more torment awaited. This may be an arena, but the events within were far from a contest. It was a massacre. Amidst the monster's bellows and growls, Itami could barely discern the healer's hushed whispers. Gentle as the moon's soft radiance. Soothe the wounds, restore the vision. Revive the spirit, mend the flesh. Those soothing phrases have become a harsh reminder that this agony will persist for an extended period. A tender, life-filled touch could make one yearn for oblivion. The spirit's restoration was utterly futile, as yours had vanished long ago. Although the physical wounds mend seamlessly, the body retains the memory. Who could have foreseen that the blessing of life, bestowed through healing, could be so merciless when wielded by a warped intellect? Itami has endured unbearable suffering. His desperate pleas to cease the restorative spells were consistently ignored. Amidst the torment, fragments of memory surfaced, his elder sister urging him to remain calm. Just as a glimmer of hope emerged, it was swiftly shattered. A forceful blow from the colossal creature ensnaring him, fracturing countless bones. He must have been intimately familiar with every inch of this place, given the countless tumbles and crashes he endured. Occasionally, thoughts of his sister provided a respite from the agonizing ordeal, albeit briefly. He was certain she was presently consumed with worry for him. Recalling her affectionate words and love fueled his desire to return. To achieve this, he couldn't remain a perpetual punching bag for this colossal beast. On the initial day he was thrust into this alien world, he promptly approached the king with a plea to be sent home. The scoundrel hesitated momentarily, then offered a disingenuous smile. He declared that the kingdom lacked the means to facilitate his return. However, he claimed knowledge of someone possessing such power. After enduring months of torment, Atami's driving force was the anticipated encounter with the demon lord, the sole individual capable of repatriating him. Huddled in the Colosseum's corner, Atami's eyes seemed to regain their vitality. The restorative touch also ignited a spark, mending his grievous wounds. He first remembered the physician's pronouncements. When thrust into this deadly contest, Itami was supposedly granted absolute freedom. Immortality within this confinement meant he could act without consequence. His sanity finally fractured. He compared his absurd predicament to a digital game. The youthful protagonist might endure every imaginable agony, but triumph required only slaying the beast before him. He simply needed to obliterate the tormentor that plagued him, tear him asunder piece by piece. The anguish was excruciating, but his loathing for his circumstances, for his captors, for everything, proved more potent. Pledging to vanquish the creature, the hero's dormant potential ignited. A searing sensation engulfed him, fueled by an unfamiliar, enigmatic energy. The exhilarating burn compelled him to eliminate the grotesque giant, then proceed to the subsequent stage. Regardless of the potential anguish, he would vanquish the demon lord and reunite with his sibling. His heroic duty compelled him. It was the essence of a hero. After pondering Callie's inquiry and becoming immersed in the torment of his past, Itami struggled to articulate a coherent response. His desires remained elusive. Following those brutal 6 months, he strived to embody heroism, emulating the legendary dragon slayer. The result was only amplified suffering. He endured the loss of cherished companions, his sister's head impaled upon a stake, his revered master's dying words. These were the rewards of his heroism. Itami was convinced he had fallen short. He was meant to be the deliverer, yet he couldn't safeguard those he held dear. Embracing the conventional hero's path caused innocent demons to endure hardship. But when he deviated from this role, humanity was beyond redemption. Regardless of his actions, irrespective of his allegiance, adversity would inevitably befall someone. Demon Queen. Callie possessed insights into bearing significant responsibility. Universal contentment was an unattainable ideal, she understood. Despite anyone's endeavors, hardship was an inescapable facet of existence. It was the world's reality. She encouraged him to contemplate the distant future. 6 or 7 decades hence, in his twilight years, he would inevitably confront his deepest lamentations. A life devoid of regret necessitates unwavering commitment. After imparting this regal wisdom, she observed as the fireworks commenced. The pyrotechnic spectacle began, illuminating the night sky, painting the darkness with vibrant hues. Suffering is an unavoidable truth, a universal constant. Itami needed to grasp the autonomy he possessed over his own destiny. Human existence is ephemeral. This impermanence underscores the importance of embracing every opportunity, embodying every aspiration. Someone will inevitably endure hardship. He must acknowledge his lack of authority in this matter. It concerns the fate of another. Itami felt as though he was receiving long-awaited words he had yearned to hear for an eternity, for as far back as his memory could reach. The wisdom imparted by Callie's counsel was amplified by the dazzling pyrotechnics illuminating the night sky. The protagonist's once empty stare now shimmered with newfound luminosity, as if a slumbering spark had been kindled within his soul. Perhaps it was through this diabolic sovereign that he at last discovered a glimmer of optimism amidst this harsh reality.